That's right, it's the Sheena Metal Experience right here on LA Talk Radio. For more info on the show, latalkradio.com, SheenaMetalExperience.com. Don't forget to email me and let me know what you think of the show. If you're looking for me on social media, it couldn't be easier. I'm just at Sheena Metal everywhere. I'm also the founder of a nonprofit movement of peace and love and kindness and unity that I founded to carry on my mama's teachings in this world. It's at raisingthevibration.org and IamRaisingTheVibration.com. And my spiritual practice is at IamRaisingYourVibration.com. And I'm also an interfaith minister at the Founders Metropolitan Community Church, and my monthly service is SaturdayNightSpiritual.com. One of the things that I do that I love so much is I work out at the Newmont Center in Agora, and because of it, I have met so many wonderful people, including my fabulous guest today, who is a wonderful trans channel and an upcoming author and just a fantastic person. I'm so glad to have her here. Please welcome to the show, Alexandra. Welcome, my friend. It's so good to be here with you.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
I'm going to take these off now because I don't need those anymore.
All right.
I always love, as a spiritual being, to have other spiritual beings here on the show with me. I think that there's something so important right now on the earth, always, but now more than ever, about us coming together and working together to raise the collective vibration.
To hold the space for it,
Mm-hmm.
for that collective vibration.
Yeah,
To hold the space.
absolutely.
It's going to, everything that happens is on purpose, right on purpose. Everything that happens is no coincidence, no accident. And we're all in this together. And it would be great for all of us to remember that from moment to moment. We're all in this together.
Absolutely agree. So tell my listeners a little bit about you for people that are not familiar with you. In this incarnation, where did you grow up, and what were sort of the beginnings of your spiritual path?
So I grew up in Oregon. I'm a native Californian. I was
Beautiful.
born in Crescent City, up north by the Oregon border. But I grew up in Lake Oswego, or Lake Grove, Oregon.
Beautiful.
And my dad was a minister, and I grew up in what I call a cult.
Okay.
It was just very rigid,
Sure.
very controlled.
Right.
You know, I saw the movie Jonestown, and when I was watching that movie, I really related to those people.
Wow.
And how they were drawn in by that leader.
Sure.
My life was very much like that, and so I had to marry a man that was introduced to me,
Okay.
and he was chosen for me.
Okay.
And I know that a lot of people say, "Wow, are there religions that still do that?" And
Of course.
absolutely, there
Yes.
are a lot.
Now,
of
was
them
it
that
was
do
it claiming to be a sect of Christianity? Is that what it claimed
Yes.
to be?
Well, I would say yes. They
Okay.
probably would say yes.
Yes, they would say yes.
They probably would say yes. It was radical in the way that they kept everybody kind of closed into their
Sure.
denomination and what they believed.
Sure.
So since I had to marry someone who was chosen for me, that was I was a minister's daughter, so I had to marry a minister.
Of course. Oh, I didn't mean to give you PTSD during my introduction. I'm a different kind of minister.
I'll bet.
Yes.
I'll bet you are. So at some point when I was 24, I was in my bedroom sleeping, and I was in Oregon at the time, Eugene, and we have beautiful rain here tonight, and the outside is very gray outside, and that's pretty much how it was this morning when I woke up in my bedroom, and my room was filled with sparkly glitter, suspended. And I sat up in bed, and when I did that and looked at my room, a voice spoke. Now, I'm still in the cult, okay?
Right.
A voice spoke and said, you don't have to be married to this man anymore, and you don't have to go to this church anymore. And in that second of that voice speaking, literally, I was timelined out on how I was going to complete leaving the church, leaving my husband, etc., which wasn't frightening to me at all. It just, they showed that to me in this timeline. And then my bedroom went dark, like gray outside like this. And I got up out of bed and knew exactly what I needed to do, and I felt like 10 tons of pressure lifted off my shoulders.
Wow.
It was a relief that I didn't have to live with this man who was chosen for me, who I didn't really even know and didn't care for. So I went about doing all of that, and that really started my spiritual journey. I went to many churches after that, searching for truth.
Sure.
And was disappointed. And because the church took my children away from me, I couldn't take them with me in that move. I learned a lot. You know, I was 24. I was a kid.
I know, still.
Very naive. And whatever I grew up, whatever I was told, I did, and I did it well, and everything was yes sir and yes ma'am. Being a minister's daughter, I had to portray that, you know? And so I couldn't take my kids with me, and I was very depressed. And about 2 years after that, I really didn't know where I was, who I was, and very confused. And I was to the point of deciding not to stay, not to continue with my life, and I was thinking about how to end that. And I lived in Chatsworth at the time in the San Fernando Valley here.
Sure.
And I was shopping at a little mom and pop health food store there. And I walked in the health food store, and the gal that was at the counter, a blonde gal, was checking another customer out, and she looked at me and she said, "Are you okay?" And because she said that to me and recognized that I was not okay, I just broke down into tears. And I said, "Nope, I'm not okay." And she says to her store manager, she asked them to come and check out these people that she was checking out at the counter, and she put her arm around my shoulder and she walked me outside, good thing, because I was bawling my eyes out. And she sat me down on the curb and she said, this was a stranger to me. I had never met her before.
Sure.
And she said, "I have a book that I think you'd like to read." She said, "If you'll wait right here, I'm just around the corner, I'll bring it to you." And so she did, and handed me this book. And the book was called She Can Read Your Past Lives, written by Grace Wittenberger-Lohr. It's out of print now,
Wow.
but was in print at the time. And she said, "This is my only copy, can you please return it?" And I said, "Absolutely." And I went home and I read that book cover to cover that afternoon. And all the questions and answers, it was a channeled book.
Yeah.
Grace Wittenberger, the author, channeled a non-physical being by the name of Dr. Jonathan Christopher Daniels, who is, probably still is, one of the holders of the Akashic Records.
Okay.
In the Bible, it's the Book of Life.
Sure.
And so every question and every answer that was in that book was my life.
Wow.
In that book, and I'm serious, I read it cover to cover, and I was so excited. Here I was in this depressed state, and for the first time in my life, I thought, whoa, there's more to how I've grown up and what I've believed.
Yeah.
And this makes sense to me. And I took the book back to her that evening, and I asked her if that author, who was Grace Wittenberger, I was thinking when I was reading the book that Grace lived in Europe or something, that I was going to have to fly to Europe to talk to this lady. And come to find out, she lived just 3 or 4 miles from me in the San Fernando Valley, which was
Wow.
Sherman Oaks.
Wow. Good things happen in Sherman Oaks.
Yes, absolutely. And so she gave me her phone number, and I called her the next day and scheduled my very first trance channeling session.
Wow.
Dr. John. And that began my spiritual journey. I no longer had any desire to go to any church. It was at that time that I felt this held all the answers that I needed in my life. And I did all the homework that they gave me, and it was an incredible journey, even though the contrast of not having my kids and having to go through that.
Sure.
Years later, I was able to get my kids and continue on with my life. So that was my beginning.
It's interesting how Spirit sends angels to us when we need them on the earth, right?
Yes.
I did not have that upbringing because I was raised by my mother, who had had a similar thing happen to her. My grandparents were not religious, but my grandmother was a psychologist and had a very definite idea for what she wanted her 4 adopted children to be. And because they were adopted, they had what my mom called orphan guilt, so they all did what they were supposed to do. And when my mom was 25, she was raped by a guy she was dating that wanted to marry her, and she was trying to get out of the relationship, so he drugged her and raped her, and she got pregnant. And my grandparents didn't believe her, and they put her in a home for unwed mothers in Harlem, where she was the only
Whoa.
Caucasian girl, and the other girls didn't like her, and understandably so. And she was very, very close to wanting to kill herself. And in the middle of the night, the nights were always the hardest for my mama. In the middle of the night, a nurse would come and sit on her bed and say, "Have you ever heard of Edgar Cayce?" And brought her a book.
Yep.
And that was the beginnings of my mother's alternative spirituality path and what
Yes.
saved her life.
Yes.
So I didn't have to go through what she went through
Yes.
because I was raised to believe in anything I wanted to believe because she had gone through that.
Yes.
But isn't that easy how interesting how these angels appear when you need them?
Yes.
Seemingly out of nowhere. Like, who would have thought in 1959 there would have been a nurse that read Edgar Cayce working at a home for unwed mothers in Harlem? But there she was, right?
Yes.
So interesting that this woman that was working at this health food store happened to have this book that was going to change your life.
And interesting with that gal, I met her then after she gave
Right.
me the book so voluntarily, right? And her name was Linda Day. She's no longer here. And when I had a session later, several months later, with Dr. Jonathan Christopher Daniels, I asked, I walked in, Grace, greets you, and then she sits down and she goes into trance, and then these other beings speak. But when she let me in, she said, "I just want to let you know that Linda died." And I was devastated because she was maybe a year or two older than me.
Yeah.
And so when Grace went into trance, I asked Dr. John, what happened with Linda Day, because I was distraught about that.
Sure.
And they said that she was an angel.
Yeah.
In physical form.
Mm-hmm.
And this is the only lifetime that she had chosen, and I was her last task.
Mm-hmm. That's what I said, right? Angels on the earth. They come and they disappear. Yeah, it was so funny when you said that you were reconnecting with her. I thought, oh, then she died, was the first thing I thought. Because that's what happens, right? They come for that specific purpose, to help you find your way.
Touching,
Yeah, it's beautiful. It's wonderful. But I think
touches.
stories like that, Alexandra, are so important that we share because they remind us that we are all connected in the universe and we are all protected. And that as alone as you may feel on this earth and as hopeless and helpless as you may feel, you never are, because Spirit is always watching out for you. Somebody always has your back and you're never
Always.
alone.
Always.
You're always being taken care of.
So when you're at your deepest, darkest
Yes.
hour,
Yes,
that is when the magic happens.
yes.
And if you're choosing to drop the body and to leave, then that will indeed happen. But if not, those beings are there
Mm-hmm.
and will lift you up.
Mm-hmm.
And I know for sure that that sparkly glitter that was in my
Absolutely,
bedroom.
absolutely.
I mean, here I was in this cult, and it didn't shock me, it didn't surprise me, it was so full of love.
Yeah,
All I could do was take it in. And it was split second. You can imagine, all this was done in, 30 seconds
Yeah.
or whatever, and then it was bright again, and they left.
but I think that's when you realize that was your real home. That was your real
Absolutely.
life.
Absolutely.
And the life you were living, that was not the real life.
We come from that home. We all come from that place to have this physical experience that is up and down, black and white, the
Yep.
dichotomy.
Soul
you know?
school.
Soul
Yeah.
school.
Yeah. The lessons are
growth.
hard, the struggle is real. Yeah.
But the growth is real too.
Yes, and the growth is
outcome.
beautiful.
Yes.
It's all good. And the
all
longer
good.
you're here and the longer, people always say, why is it so hard? I've done all the work, I'm so evolved. And I
Yes.
always say, well, your third year of college is harder than second grade. The more you
Yes.
come back and learn, the harder the lessons get.
Or the more advanced they get.
Yeah,
Not
sure.
necessarily hard, because it's up to us to determine what's going to be hard and what's going to be easy.
It's true.
You
You're
know,
very
it's going to be our perception of that. But I totally agree with you. It's advanced
Yeah.
education,
Yeah.
you know?
You're getting closer.
Exactly.
It's a sign that you're getting closer.
If we could step out of our emotionality, you know, and not see it as so hurtful and
Right.
painful.
Right.
And that's what Golden Arrow is all about in this,
I love
know,
that.
the second hour tonight.
We're going to have some golden arrow. I'm very
Yes,
excited.
everyone will have a chance. And Golden Arrow is very insightful as non-physical beings, as they are, not ever having human form.
Mhm.
They are very insightful beings, and they know where it's at.
That's wonderful. This is the only time I've ever had somebody channel on the show in almost 26 years of radio.
No way.
It's been offered to me before and I've always said no. But with
Why?
you, I said yes. I don't know why. It just wasn't the right time, so I said no. And funny, both of those times, the beings showed up during the commercial break just to eye me a little bit, just figure out what I was about, and then disappeared.
Well,
Yeah, I didn't, I don't know. It didn't feel like it was right, and with you it does. I've been in
Wow.
channeling sessions that weren't on the radio, certainly.
Yeah.
I don't fear channelers, but I
Yeah.
don't know. It just didn't seem right, but with you it seems right, and with Golden Arrow it seems right. So you are welcome and they are welcome.
Well, I'm sure that you and Golden Arrow have a connection,
Yeah,
you know?
yeah. Yeah, I had that thought while I was walking in today. Yeah, sure. It's going to be interesting. So when
I
did you
love it.
know that you could do this? I mean, so you went from becoming a person who found her true spiritual center
Yeah.
to then finding out that you too were a light worker and that you had a gift and there was a thing that you could do, and then how did you connect? Why Golden Arrow of all the beings that you could channel? I'm sure they picked you, but
They totally picked me.
of course.
I know. I did not know I was a channel. I did not have any concept or idea that this would be something that I would be doing. In fact, it would be the last thing on my mind. My expertise is in business. I came in with just knowing and knowledge of how to run businesses and
Okay.
corporations.
Sure.
So that's been my living, you know? But when I was studying with these channelers, and it wasn't with Dr. John at all, that began my spiritual journey. And so I studied with many trance channelers. Dr. Peebles, who was channeled at that time by Thomas Jacobson, who is channeled by several people now, J.Z. Knight. Many trance channelers. They're the ones that I believe. They were the truth to me. So I never had any concept at all of doing this myself. Like I said, I was in business at the time when this happened. I owned 2 businesses, was running 2 at the time. And I was just having a session with Dr. Peebles, who was channeled at that time by Thomas Jacobson. And Dr. Peebles, the vibration of Dr. Peebles, who was in human form, by the way. Dr. Peebles was a medical doctor on the earth, and I think he died in the 30s or something, around there. So Dr. Peebles was speaking to me. I had had many sessions with him, and in this particular session, Dr. Peebles said to me, "There's other energy here that would like to introduce themselves to you. Would that be all right?" And I said, "Absolutely." And Dr. Peebles, who speaks with a very heavy brogue, Scottish brogue, stopped talking and a very soft voice spoke and said, "We are Golden Arrow, and we would like for you to channel us." And I said, "You're kidding, right?" And they said, "Oh no, we wouldn't kid you about that." And then I felt like an idiot. then I backtracked and backpedaled, and I said, no, I know you wouldn't kid me about that, but that's the last thing that I ever thought I'd ever do. I never thought about doing it. I have no clue how to do it. And they said, well, you have done enough work where you can learn to open yourself up so that we can speak to humanity.
Wow.
And I said, I have no clue how to go about doing that. And they said, not to worry, we'll teach you. And then a warm breeze blew through me from my back to my front, and I just sat there and bawled.
Wow.
The whole rest of the session, Dr. Peebles just picked up where they left off in their conversation. Nothing else was said, Golden Arrow was gone, and that was that. And when Thomas came out of trance, I told him what happened, and he said, you know, in all the years that I've channeled Dr. Peebles, that's never happened. And I said, well, they said that they would teach me, and he said, okay. And I'm going, are you gonna teach me? And he said, no, I don't do that. So then I was at a loss, you know, I was dumbfounded. I thought, okay, well, how's this gonna happen? And I just was involved in my corporations, and so went back to my office and back to work, and about a week later there was a message on my answering machine from Thomas, and he said, so this is the phone number that was given to me this morning, here it is. And he left it on my answering machine. That was it. So I called that number, and a woman's voice answered the phone, and I said, I got your number from Thomas Jacobson. And she said, oh, yes. She said, you need to see me. And I said, I guess I do. I mean, I was at a loss,
Wow.
you know? And so this gal, channels, is a trance channeler, and she channels a non-physical being by the name of Torah. And Torah teaches trance channeling. So I went to a workshop. I lived up in Lake Arrowhead at the time, and she was in Woodland Hills. I traveled from Lake Arrowhead.
Apparently the San Fernando Valley is the
I know.
hub of trans channeling.
Yes.
Who knew?
Who knew? So I traveled every Saturday for 2 years,
Wow.
and took her 9-hour class, went home and did all the homework that they gave me to do. One thing about me growing up in a cult,
Sure.
I was a very good student,
Yeah.
because it was expected of me certain things
Mm-hmm.
to be a good student.
Yep.
And I was.
Be a good girl.
Absolutely, be a good girl. You are an example of us,
Right.
of my family, right?
But isn't that, I mean, as much as it was a cult for you, and that wasn't a good thing, isn't that something good that came out of it? Because I believe we
Absolutely.
should always look for the jewels that come out of
No.
everything. That when you are a light worker, right, being a good girl or boy or non-binary human being, whatever you choose to identify as, that is one of the most important things, because you have to make sure you keep your channel and your body and your heart and your mind pure, so that you can do justice the integrity of the beings that you're channeling. Even if you're just doing what I do, which is work with spirit, you have to honor spirit by being an honorable person. And so I think the fact that you learned to be a good girl, actually, you know, it really benefited the work that you do now.
You know, Sheena, you walk your talk.
Thank you.
Not a lot of people do that.
Thank you.
Not a lot of trance channelers or
I know.
psychics or
I know.
metaphysicians.
Breaks my heart.
Not a lot of them walk their talk, and
Yeah.
that was very important to me.
Me too.
If I'm going to let them speak, I may not agree with them, and in the very beginning I didn't agree a lot with what they said when I would go back and listen to them. But I knew that if I was going to do this work, which was their work, then I had to walk it. I had to live it.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't work for me to speak something and then go home and do exactly the opposite.
Right. Exactly.
I grew up with that in the
Mhm.
cult.
Exactly. That's the cult.
I would watch my dad say something from the pulpit, and we'd go home and he would do exactly the opposite. And
Absolutely.
that's not okay with me.
Mm-hmm.
So I, like you, if they tell me to do something, I do it. that's the way that I do it, and I'm always happier for doing it that way.
Yes. Yeah, even when you don't think Spirit's going to be right, I find Spirit's always right. You know, even when we question with our tiny human pea brains, but almost always Spirit is right. Almost always angels are right. Almost always our guides are right. Even almost always our deceased loved ones that are trying to help us and guide us are right. You know, the way that incarnate consciousness limits us, we need to defer to those that are at home.
Yes.
Where there's more of a 360 perspective.
Always. And if we do that, we will have peace and harmony in our lives.
Yeah.
I speak from experience in that. I have debated, I've gone against what they've said and turned right around and said, okay, that's not working.
Yeah.
And I do what they tell me to do.
Mm-hmm. I have too. I've said, no, my life's going to be this.
Yeah.
And always it was in the surrender and the release that the happiness came from.
Yes.
And I try to work with my clients on that all the time. I know you don't want to surrender. I know you don't want to release.
Yeah.
But that's when you really find true happiness, is when you realize, and you know, I grew up an actor. I grew up in the entertainment world where we were taught you got to knock on those doors and knock those doors down and make your career what you want. It wasn't until I was really in my early 40s and I was here that I realized it's not about always throwing yourself against a closed door. It's about getting in the canoe, pulling up the oars, and letting Spirit take you where you're supposed to go. And that's when you get everything you want.
Yes.
But while you're trying to tell Spirit, this is what my life's going to be, they're like, okay, rock on with your big self on your 10th life or whatever it is. You know everything.
Yes.
But the truth is, when you just relax and say, I would like for you all to show me where I'm going and what it's supposed to be, then usually you get what you wanted anyhow.
Yes. Just different than what you anticipated it was going to look like and how it was going to come. You get it anyway.
Right.
The end
right way.
result is peace and harmony.
Exactly.
You
yes. know? Yeah. And fulfillment. You're absolutely, so yes, and you're right. I am a walker talker. It's very important for me to live who I say I am. But you know, I was raised by a Scorpio mother. Who was a psychic. I couldn't get away with anything. Saying Scorpio mother who was psychic is kind of a redundancy, isn't it? Because aren't all Scorpios psychic?
They are.
But you know, so I didn't want to get away with anything because we were so good with each other. And I'm Irish, and it's all about love, loyalty, and friendship. And I'm an Aries, and it's all about being honest.
Yeah.
I have a very hard time with anything where I don't feel like I'm being simpatico with Spirit, because I think I take what I do very seriously. This is a huge, everything I've ever done has been a huge responsibility. The arts were, being, my voice on the radio is, but boy, working with Spirit and changing people's lives for the better through love and kindness and messages of love and kindness. It's the most wonderful thing in the world.
It is. I totally agree with you.
But others let other things get in the way, right? Ego, greed.
Yeah, emotions.
Yeah.
Again, our
Human
emotions.
stuff.
Yes, human stuff, and that's why we're all here. It's no big deal one way or the other. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We're either going to be here and do this, or we're not, and then we'll leave, and then we come again.
Yeah.
You know, so when one is aware of that concept, that you do the very best that you can do with what you've been given or what you've chosen, when you do the very best, all you can say is good job.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
For me, that's what it's all about.
For me
people
too.
that I talk with, people that I interact with, just do the very best that you can do.
Absolutely. I feel the same. And it feels good to me to know that I am honoring the wishes of Spirit, and I'm honoring the people that I'm working with.
Yes.
So everybody is being honored and everyone is being loved.
Yes.
And everyone, hopefully, because of that, is becoming more connected. Because that's the most important thing. When I said earlier about claim to be Christian, I work at a progressive Christian church, and there was a time growing up in the 80s in Orange County where I wouldn't even say the G word. I wouldn't even say God. I had to say the universe. But I sort of found my way back to this church that is a refuge for people who got kicked out of their churches for not fitting into what a Christian should be.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really made me think about my mother and how she very much followed the teachings of Christ, back to my claimed thing.
Yes.
Because I see Jesus as kind of an amazing metaphysician and an amazing healer. And to me, if you break the New Testament down, it breaks down to 3 words really: community, connection, and love. And to me, that's all Jesus basically said. He just said it a lot in a lot of different ways.
Yes.
But it was all about community, connection, and love. And so when I said claim to be Christian, that's where I was going, because it's interesting how many folks now claim to be followers of Christ.
Yeah.
But they've forgotten about community, connection, and love.
Yes.
And those words have been replaced by other words like control.
Judgment and criticism.
Judgment, exactly. Which nothing was never about that.
No.
And I think that's we think we understand love, and I think in a three-dimensional perspective, we think we understand community. But I think human beings have a very hard time with connection. And it's so important that you connect to others, to yourself, to spirit, to the earth, to society. It's all about connection. It feels so good to be plugged in.
Yes, I totally agree. The one thing that bothers me about those individuals that claim to be Christian or give themselves that title, right, is that they believe that they're their brother's keeper.
Yes.
And we're not.
Mm-hmm.
We are responsible for ourselves and how we see others and how we perceive others. We're responsible for how we live our lives. It is not my job to live somebody else's life.
No.
It's not my job to take control of somebody else's life.
No.
So that's a big thing.
Yeah.
That it bothers me. I have to say it bothers me.
And it's certainly not my place or anyone's place to tell anyone else what their relationship with spirit should be.
Exactly.
Because our relationship with our higher power, that is between us and them.
Yes.
And nobody can tell you you're not worshiping the right way, you're not praying the right way, you're not praying to the right God,
say
you
to me all
don't
the
believe
time.
the right things. And, I don't even think I hear, I just blah. Sounds like Charlie Brown's mother when they start talking. It's like, wah, 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 wah.
Yeah.
I don't even hear it. But, nobody has a right to tell anyone how to worship. Everyone does it in their own way, in their own time. Sometimes I get a little thrown off with my lovely New Age friends when they'll say, like, well, if you don't meditate, it's like, well, look, that's sort of the same thing. Some people meditate, some people don't.
Yeah.
It's not for me to tell somebody else how to connect.
Yes, exactly. And some people can connect without meditation,
Right.
I think meditation is used, I know that Golden Arrow speaks highly of meditation and actually gives that as homework for people who need to calm their mind.
Yes.
To center themselves. And it is a fabulous technique to get there. So I'm all for meditation, but for me to say to somebody, you need to meditate, that's not my right.
No, or nor mine. I love you. We're right on the same page here, aren't we?
Yeah.
Do you remember what Golden Arrow tells you as Golden Arrow is speaking, or do you have to hear it later?
I have to hear it later. It was an agreement that I made when they started speaking that I did not want to know other people's business.
Okay.
And why they were coming to Golden Arrow, why they needed to talk with them. I have enough to worry about with my own life journey than to get involved with other people. So no, I don't remember anything. If I need to know about them, I'll find out later. The individual that's having the session will tell me, or if they want me to listen to a portion of it, I will. But no, I want to stay out of it.
But they do come and speak with you when you're not in a session with someone else? Golden Arrow?
Golden Arrow? I get, in
the
beginning,
messages?
In the beginning, no, because I didn't know how to relax and let that happen.
Okay.
But this is going on 36 years now.
Okay.
So yes, I get downloads all the time from them. Total communication, it's in my head, or I can speak it out. It doesn't make any difference. I get total downloads all the time from them. And they're profound. Usually I'll go get a piece of paper and write it down, or I'll share it with my husband. I'll say I just got a download, and share it with him, and that's how it ends up being remembered, because usually a download is very important. Humanity needs to know it.
So. It's time to get a napkin and a pen and start writing.
Yes.
Find that Starbucks napkin.
Yes, exactly.
Yes, it's absolutely. And when you hear them in your head, is it that same sweet, soft voice that you heard that day?
Always.
Isn't that wonderful?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's hard to describe, I think, if you don't get messages from otherworldly beings. People always ask me to describe it. and I can't really describe it in human terms. Just that it's a voice that is so full of love and comfort when Spirit speaks that it's almost like you wish you could curl up on a blanket like
Yes.
in kindergarten and take a nap.
It's very warm.
Yes.
It's very gentle. Even when it's something profound that they want it to be documented right then and there.
Mhm.
I mean, a lot of times it'll be in the shower. Water does incredible things when they have downloads. I mean, it just comes
Yes.
whoosh.
That's where I often
through.
get mine. Hot tub, bathtub,
Yes.
shower.
Yes,
Yes. Sitting out in the rain.
but it's always, the feeling that I have is always very gentle, very caring,
Mm.
warm.
Mm-hmm.
Even when it's profound and there's something in there that really needs to be taken to heart,
Mhm.
even then, it's always given just with a flood of love.
Yes. But there is a surrender process, right? Because you have to wait till it's time for the messages to be delivered. And you have to learn to trust. I've learned to spend my life sort of in the now and with the channel open and in service, knowing that when there is something for me to be told, whether it's here's your next webinar or here's what you
Mhm.
need to tell this client,
Yeah.
the message will come.
Yes.
And I don't spend a lot of time, in essence praying or, shaking my fist at the sky and asking why I'm not getting the answer. I know when it's time for the answer will come.
Yeah, but didn't you learn that?
Oh gosh, yes. Are you kidding me? Did you miss
In
the
the
part where I'm an Aries? Oh my gosh, yes. Yes, I had to learn that
Yes.
because, and to get to that place where I trust, I had to write a piece for a charity play that I was supposed to be in this weekend, but not, thank you, coronavirus. And I kept thinking, I don't know where it is because it's not coming. I don't know where it is. And Spirit kept saying, it's coming. It's all right. It's coming. And then 2:00 in the morning, 2 days before, they were like, here's the title. It's coming tomorrow. Make some time. And then sure
Nice.
enough, there it was. And it just channeled right out.
Nice.
But you have to relax into that and trust
Yes.
that you're always going to be taken care of and it's always going to come. And that's
Yes.
whether you're waiting for money. My mama used to always
Yeah,
say,
anything.
right when she needed money, a huge check would come, and she would always say, honey, don't you know God takes care of us? And I always thought that was, how could she do that? How could she just wait and know
Good for her.
that one day this check will just show up?
Good for her.
But she had learned to live like that in
Yes.
this way of just, and it's a beautiful way to live without expectation, without constantly wringing your hands and,
Yes.
and fretting about what you don't have, knowing that you will be taken care of and all your dreams will come true.
I've always been taken care of. Always.
Yeah, me too.
Not that I have even, I've been uptight and wanting and needing or whatever, and realizing that if I would just let go and not have that constriction, and
Yes.
that's a process. Really important for all our listening audience. It's a process
Yes.
that we all have to go through of trusting. We live in a world of no trust.
Yes.
We live in a world of lying and cheating and all of
Yeah,
that.
yes.
That's
Terrible
the,
greed.
that's the human. That's the human experience.
Right.
You know, we came here to experience that. Now, learning how to release and let go of expectations. For me, I don't necessarily pray, but I speak directly with them,
Yeah, me
and
too.
I will ask them for their help.
Mhm.
And I will say, I name them by name, and I say, I need help with this, and I'll wait for you. And I
Yeah.
let go,
Yeah.
and I have no expectation on how it will show up, but I have to tell you, Sheena, it's taken me a long time
Me too.
to go through that process of, I've always known that I was taken care of, but we have this contrast that has to slap us in the face
Yes.
and say, well, but you need to worry about that, but you don't know when that's happening, and
Right.
blah, 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 blah,
Yes.
And the practice that I've done is meditation, actually.
Yeah.
Relaxing and going into this meditative state, knowing that the answer is there and will be there when it's needed.
Put the chattering monkey in your brain to sleep.
Totally.
Let it take a little nap.
Totally.
Yeah. Right. And people say, well, how come you don't pray? And I say, well, it's not that you don't pray. I mean, I leave the channel open all the time and I'm having a constant dialogue all the time. Trust me, Spirit knows what I want and what I need and how I'd like to help people.
Yes.
It's just a dialogue. But there's this kind of ideology that I think, right, is very indoctrined religion, where you only ask God for things when you want something. You only speak to God when you want something.
Yes.
When I want something, then I pray. When I want, bigger boobs or the Maserati or, Ed McMahon to show up with $1.5 million,
Yes.
That's when I pray.
Yeah.
But I don't ever speak with spirit when I'm not asking for something. And maybe that's part of my don't dishonor your higher power thing.
Yeah, exactly.
But to me, there should be a constant dialogue that is also, thank you for this.
Appreciation.
And boy, I
is
had a good
everything.
day. And man, I smiled
Yes.
5 times today. And thank you for the lovely barista at Starbucks that you brought into my life for 5 minutes. Not just, I want, here's my list, I want.
Yes.
And I think
Appreciation goes a long
Yeah.
way with non-physicals.
yes, and just why wouldn't you just give back and talk and say thank you?
Because we get so tied up in our little knot,
I
in
know.
our family dramas and the dramas that we create for ourselves. And I like to say the drama is a gift. We create dramas to learn what it is that we don't want.
Mhm.
And once we know what we don't want, knowing what we do want comes easy then.
Yes.
When we get out of that emotionality
Yes.
that's caught up in the drama.
Yes. Well, it's that way when I do chakra cleanses, right? Your chakras are supposed to cleanse themselves. We stop that process.
Yeah.
Like in a perfect world, everything just cleans itself and it's fine. Everything in our body, spiritually, emotionally, physiologically, is designed to take care of itself. We are the ones that stress everything out.
Yes.
And we stop
Stand in the
things from
way.
functioning properly.
Yes.
Well, sometimes it's just getting out of the way and let go, let God, right? Just getting
Yeah.
out of the way and let spirit do their job.
Yeah.
That's
It's be out of our minds.
exactly. Yes. So how often are you seeing clients? How often are you channeling?
Well, off and on, for 36 years.
Right.
Some years were more than others. Like I said, my expertise is in business, and I've been in business for myself since I was 24,
And still doing that.
and still doing that.
Beautiful.
So I work in sessions with people. Like yesterday I had 2, and this morning I had 1. The day before I had 1. So it really depends on my schedule.
Sure.
And I do large groups also, and that also depends on my schedule.
Sure.
So it's when people need it, they get together and I show
Wonderful.
up.
That's wonderful. How about the book? 'Cause you're writing a book
Yeah.
right now. How much
Yeah.
of it is you? How much of it is them? Do you know the difference? Do you care?
The book is called Who Are You and What Are You Doing Here? And it's really part of my story of who I am and how I came into this connection. I'll just call it a connection with non-physicals. And I'm getting the feeling that this first book is going to be about my journey and how I got there, and then there will be a second and a third book. The second book probably will be Golden Arrow Speaking. And then the third book will probably be a combination of all of that. But I would say that this first book is all about how I brought spirit to me
It's
and
beautiful.
how I listened and how I did what they told me to do. Because I want to share with humanity, whoever picks up the book, whoever needs the book, to let them know that they're not alone, that they're on a journey, just like I am on a journey, like you're on a journey.
Yeah.
We all have our story, we all have our own unique story of how we came in and set up this life experience for ourselves. So it's just another story and another way to tell humanity that it's okay, you're on the right track.
I think that's so
Keep
important for
going.
people to know what you just said, is that just because we are light workers and people come to us for help and for validation and for uplift, doesn't mean that we're not also having human lives. And we
Oh my
have our own
gosh.
lessons. We have our own things we're working through and our own things we're trying to overcome so we can go to the head of the class and advance to the next life. I mean, we too are dealing with things and have dealt with things. And I think it's important, I share it with my clients all the time, because I think it's important for folks to know that I too have had a human experience and haven't always done the right thing, and come around to some things later than others, and
Yeah.
you know, and still working on things.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. I'm still working on things. Sometimes they're just little pebbles, and sometimes they're great big boulders.
Yeah.
You know, still.
Mm-hmm.
And like Golden Arrow says, you're never finished.
No.
You just continue on.
Absolutely.
From this lifetime to another lifetime to another lifetime. You're never finished. It's the journey that's important. How you grow, who you become in that journey. That's what's important.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that's where the wanting to be a good girl comes in handy for both of us again. Because I don't mind the work. I like the work. I like the fact that life sometimes is work. And I like the fact that there's always another lesson after the lesson. I was a good student. I like lessons.
Yeah.
And I like the idea that it's all for something, that I'm working towards something, whether I'm working on things for myself or I'm helping other people.
Yeah.
It's for not only more connection and a higher evolvement and enlightenment and vibration, but it's also every time somebody sort of, you know, gets their celestial poop in a group, it helps the whole of the earth. Because you didn't think you were going to hear that today, did you?
No, but that's great. I like it. I'm gonna retain
celestial
that
poop in
line.
a group. You know,
Great.
it raises up everything. That's sort of the
Yes.
ideology behind my nonprofit, right? Is that the more that we all sort of raise our individual vibrations, collectively the
Yeah.
vibration of everything raises.
It's the pebble in the pond.
Yeah.
As I do my work and you do your work, it affects everybody. You know, you just made the comment that there are so many people that are on their own journey. Well, their journey is a mirror of mine. Your journey is a mirror of mine. Mine is a
Yes.
mirror of you. We're all connected through that vibrational
Yes.
beingness.
Yes.
You know?
Isn't that beautiful?
It is.
We're
So
all a piece of each
all
other.
the people in the Middle East, right, or in Asia, wherever,
Sure.
all those people, as we do our work, as we raise up our vibration, it affects everybody. It affects everything that is happening on the planet. It's not my job to solve anything. It's my job to do my own work because my vibration is connected with everybody else's.
Right. Yes. My mama used to call it cogs in the wheel.
Yeah.
She'd say we're all just a cog in the wheel. And
Yeah.
the more we run smoothly, the more the wheel runs smoothly.
Yes.
And I always sort of thought of the universe as that, as this big
Yeah.
giant mechanism that just hums along beautifully when we're all doing our thing and we're all doing our part.
Think about this. Universe, you say. We're stuck here on this planet, right? All we can see is planet Earth and what all is happening here. But think about other beings in other realms of reality. They are doing different work too.
Yes.
They're doing their work and they're growing. Golden Arrow has always said that the Earth platform is probably one of the most difficult because we're in a confined form. When you're non-physical, you're not confined.
Mhm.
So the experiences are different and the learning is different.
Yes.
So being in this confined vehicle that we call a body, is once we get something, once we really understand what we're doing, we actually expand out into the universe and all other beings are affected by our growth,
Yes.
by our vibration, by lifting ourselves up,
So true.
empowering ourselves. Actually, that's our only job, is to come here to empower ourselves.
Yeah. And you're right. I had a near-death experience when I was just 2 weeks shy of 24. And I went home for, a hot minute and a half. And the first thing I remember thinking at the time was human beings have no idea how much pain they're in until it's gone. And I was 23. I'd had some medical stuff, but I wasn't in chronic pain every day. But it wasn't just the physical pain, it was the emotional pain. That you don't really realize what being embodied carries with it until you no longer are. And
Yes.
feel the lack of that. And the nice thing about being able to go home like that for the 30 seconds was that I can always remember now what's waiting and what it's like to feel that way and bring a little bit of that in with me.
Boy, no accident that you had that experience.
Oh no, no
You know?
accident at all, no.
Wow.
No.
To be able to see outside of yourself and see what is waiting for you.
Yeah.
Yeah, you really needed to know that
Absolutely, I did.
in order to withstand all of this.
Well, I was a very driven person that thought of my life as a straight line from here to here.
Yeah.
And as soon as I came back, I thought of everything as a circle. And it
Yes.
wasn't just about my own artistic career, it was about how can I pull other people in and help other people and make everything a community thing. I literally hit that wall. I was in an accident on the 405 freeway and hit the sound wall. I hit that wall as one person and I came back as somebody else.
Yeah, wow.
And not in a like walk-in creepy kind of way,
Yeah.
but in a way where it was like I just got 10,000 years of enlightenment in 30 seconds and came back and suddenly realized what was really important.
Yes.
And I would have always told you that I was a spiritual person and that I was a loving person, and I'm sure I was. But I don't know that I understood how important it was that every being be involved in everything I was doing before.
Another degree.
It was another degree. I mean, to the point where I lost my boyfriend at the time, I lost 2 of my best friends. I think I literally scared the crap out of people because they were like, who are you and what have you done with our friend?
Yeah.
And then,
Who are you and what are you doing here?
well, and that's funny. I told Alexandra before we started that when in the truth, I bounced off the wall and the car was spinning. In my consciousness, I went through the wall and I was driving in nothingness in the car. And I looked over and there was a gentleman sitting in my passenger seat. And I said, "Who are you and what are you doing here?"
Wow.
And he said, "I'm just here to make sure you get across okay."
Oh.
And then I heard a voice say, not sure if it was from him or if it was from not from him, say, "It's up to you. You can stay here and work, or you can go back and do your work there and you decide." And I said, no, I have to go back. There's so many things I want to do. And boom, I was right back in that car and it was spinning. So, and then I stumbled out of that car seemingly unharmed. I mean, I certainly had, I had a whiplash, I had a head injury, I didn't know at the time I had a messed up knee, but I mean, I should have been dead.
Yes.
And everybody kept walking over because there was a mid-sized BMW and literally the bumper was where the windshield was.
Oh.
The whole front end was gone. Everybody kept saying, "Why are you not dead?" Like the tow truck driver, the cops, everybody kept saying, "Why are you alive?" And I don't know.
Yeah.
So,
In that moment,
yeah.
did you recognize where you had been in your
No.
out of body experience?
No,
Or
it
you
happened
didn't?
about 3 months later. I was spending the night at my then boyfriend's house. It was my first night spending the night in his apartment because he hated his apartment. And I literally woke up at 3 o'clock in the morning and thought, oh my God, that's where the missing time was. There was a space of missing time that I couldn't remember. And it just got downloaded. And I thought, you think you make these things up when you're in your 20s, but
Yes.
years later, I was interviewing a friend of mine who's on a TV show, and I was hosting a fan forum for his show. And we were talking during the lunch break, and he was talking about a near-death experience he had in a motorcycle accident. And I said, "Did you remember it, or did it come later?" And he said, "Nope, 6 months later, I was walking down a sidewalk, and it dropped into me." And I'm like, "Yep, that's what happened to me too."
Yeah.
I guess that's a thing sometimes.
Yeah, I think that's a survival thing, I think you're not supposed to remember it then because there's so much emotion attached to it
Yes.
then
Mm-hmm.
that when you see it later on, some of that emotion has settled and is gone, and then you can see it clearly what happened.
Yeah.
And then you can appreciate it.
Yeah, right.
I mean, that was
Yeah, it was huge.
that was not something to appreciate in the moment.
It was huge. I mean, it very much was my life before that and my life after that.
Yes.
I think will always be.
That's why you're doing what you're doing now.
Yes, that was the beginning of the path.
Yeah.
And then my mom passing. Interestingly, it happened 2 weeks before my 24th birthday, March 18th. My mother died March 11th, 2 weeks before my 49th birthday. So
Wow.
sort of my quarter anniversary
Yeah.
and my half anniversary.
Yeah.
And both at exactly the same time, the same week.
Yeah.
And those were sort of the 2 times where I moved into different parts of my life
Mhm.
because of trauma.
Next chapters.
Next chapter, yeah. So,
Boy,
right before I turn 75, there'll be
Oh, gosh.
another big chapter. Who knows what that one will be? You are so beautiful and so wonderful. Talk a little bit about where people can find you and find the book, and then we're going to take a break, and then Golden Arrow's going to come back and take the show over.
All right. So my website is alexandra-goldenarrow.com. So it's ALEXANDRA dash GOLDENARROW.com. It's a beautiful website, so you can always reach me through that website. I'm going to give you my telephone number too.
Please.
For those of you who would like to make contact with me. It's 951-315-8170. That's my cell phone. So if I don't answer, don't be discouraged. Leave a message because I'm running a very large company. So I might not be able to get back with you when you call, but I will call you back for sure. Just make sure that you leave a message and say that you're calling about Sheena's show and Golden Arrow. The book, Who Are You and What Are You Doing Here? That title, actually, the reason why Sheena had mentioned what she did earlier, that title actually was given to me by Golden Arrow, and no accident that Sheena
Probably
came up
no
with that
accident
as
there.
well,
Yeah.
because I'm sure that she has a connection with Golden Arrow, and I'm sure that all this is going to come up in the next hour
I'm sure
when
it is
Golden
too.
Arrow speaks.
And you'll have to go back and watch later.
Yeah,
I'll be right here witnessing it
exactly.
now.
Exactly.
It's wonderful.
So-
I'm at IamRaisingYourVibration.com if you have any questions or comments or information that I can give you about Alexandra. Sheena at IamRaisingYourVibration.com, and my number 818-437-0886. That's my cell phone, very private. You may text me at any time. We'll take a quick break while we get Golden Arrow here. Thank you for being here, my friend. I can't wait to have you back. Please
my
come back
pleasure.
again.
Thank you.
And it's the Sheena Metal Experience on LA Talk Radio, and we'll be right back after this.